Good evening, America. Episode 11, Contra-Dictions coming to you. We got our boys Kenny in the house. We got my
Uh,
boy Glennon in the house. A lot to discuss
So,
tonight, fellas. So we're going to do a recap. It's episode 11, our first 10 episodes. We're going to try and get everything into one episode, recap everything that we've covered over the first 10. So right now we got one live thing that has taken place over the weekend that's on everybody's mind right now, Rayshard Brooks. What do you got for me, Glenn? Start us off, man. What do you think?
well, Rayshard Brooks was an Atlanta man. I'm not sure if he was an Atlanta native or what, but the incident happened in Atlanta. So Rayshard Brooks, it's an unfortunate situation. There's a picture of him right there. Was a 27-year-old African-American gentleman. He was shot in the back twice after a brief altercation with the police where he had actually, I guess, he had a few drinks and was going through the good old Wendy's drive-thru to get him some grub and started snoozing in the drive-thru. So the manager of the Wendy's went ahead and called the police because he was holding up the drive-thru line. And come to find out, he had been slightly intoxicated behind the wheel of his vehicle. So, this is kind of a crazy situation. 27-year-old black guy. My whole thing is this, and I'll be honest with you. And I'm going to let Kenny take it in a second. But he was the first cop that showed up was actually pretty cool. Like he seemed like he was pretty laid back. The first cop showed up, the first officer and Rayshard were talking, and it seems to me from the videotape that I heard and everything that I'm almost certain if the second cop didn't show up, this wouldn't have happened. I'm not blaming this on the cop, right? But I feel like the first cop was probably going to give him a ticket or something, maybe write him a citation, or maybe say, hey, you can if you can make a phone call and somebody can pick you up, I'll let you go. Then you can come back and pick up your car tomorrow. You got a ticket, and he was probably going to let him go on his way. It wasn't until the second cop showed up and told him that he was going to be arrested that all hell sort of broke loose, and then we had an incident. But I'll just leave it there for now. Kenny, what you got, buddy?
so, first of all, welcome everybody, and appreciate you checking out the show tonight. The first thing that I would say is we've got to be able to have abstracting opinions where I can have two opinions on the same topic. And what I mean by that is first I'm going to address what we've talked about on this show before. So it's funny that we're doing a recap because we've talked about almost this exact thing. If we had a scenario, so I'm going to go over the legal system first. And again, with all the defunding talk, I have not heard nearly enough talk about changing some minor offenses. Now, I'm not saying that a DUI, I mean, let's really be honest, right? The three of us that are here, have any of us ever never done this before? Never been in a parking lot?
We've all done this. We have all done this.
I know for sure. I would have been at Taco Bell, not Wendy's, but I'm just saying. But my point
I'd have
is,
been at the nasty McDonald's, bro. We've all done it. Or hey, if I was home in Annapolis, I'd have been pulling up to Double T, like
so I
waiting on
definitely
that
would have been at Double
stomachache.
T. So,
Yeah.
look, I'm not excusing the behavior, right? And no, I haven't fell asleep in a Wendy's parking lot, and I don't. I think he had a little bit more than a little to drink. But my point is that if we can have laws where once we have this guy's information, we don't have to take him into custody and put him into jail. I think that is a better way to handle it. I think that if we had that system where that was one of our ways we could handle it, they had all his information, they could have easily just go ahead and said, hey, look, we're going to wait here till you get an Uber, or, if we can do the long-term plan, what I would like to see down the road is where we could even, hey, you live within 10 miles, we'll drive you there. You live longer than that, we'll wait. You'll get into an Uber and you go home. You cannot get your car. We're going to actually tow your car. It's not going to be a pleasant environment. You're still going to charge them to the DUI.
Not
He
that
already
this
blew.
matters. Not that this matters. Not that this matters. But was this his first DUI offense?
No, it was not.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. But but here's the thing. I'm going to get to that. So I just wanted to set the guidelines of where we can get if we adjust laws in this country, because I actually tend to agree with Glenn that with the first police officer, I think it seemed to me, and I'm speculating, but if that law was on the books, it sounds like that guy would have been okay with that. Now, I have no problem with the second officer. He seemed a little less friendly, a little bit more by the book. He told the guy, hey, man, can you blow? Not blow. He blew. Hey, you've had too much to drink. I'm going to go ahead and take you to jail. He grabs by his arm. You start ragdolling police officers. You grab one of their taser guns. Now, here's the problem, okay? When people say things like I heard somebody say, well, why don't they shoot him in the leg? Okay, well, first of all, this guy's running away with a taser that he just stole from one of the police officers. As he's running, he turns back to shoot the guy that's chasing him. The other guy that has his taser is too far away to shoot him with a taser. You can see in the video, he's about 15 feet away. There's no way he's getting to that guy with the taser. The guy that's closest to him does not have a taser. He's got a gun now because you took his taser. So once you turn around and shoot that taser, that guy had no idea whether he'd hit that police officer square in his face with the taser. There was no, and we've all seen where people tase people. They tend to tase them either in the chest or in the legs, and they will tase them that way. This guy turned around with no regard for that guy, turned around and shot the taser. He got shot. It sucks that it was in his back, but
it's kind of easy to say, hey, let's shoot him in the leg, because we've seen so many movies where the cops aim and they actually shoot him in the leg.
I'm just going to go ahead and debunk that right now. In the Marine Corps, I did fan fire, which is basically a qualify with a pistol. You qualify with like 8 other guys next to you, and you shoot it. I believe it's 9 meters. Is that right, Fred? Do you remember?
Yeah.
I think it's 9 meters. And at 9 meters, at less than 10 yards, and I would say 5 of the people next to me barely hit the damn target. I mean, pistols are very hard to shoot accurately, especially when running. The idea you're just going to be able to pick a leg. And for anybody that knows Sean Taylor, shooting in the leg is a very dangerous proposition. You have an artery going through both of them through your thighs that is huge. You hit that person dies in less than 15, 20 seconds. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Look, at the end of the day, guys, and there's got to be some accountability. And as a black man, I hate to say it, because look, at the end of the day, he didn't deserve to die.
No one's saying that, especially 2 shots in the back.
Yeah, and 2 shots in the back. He didn't deserve to die. But this is the thing, you start wrestling around with cops, you take their taser, you start to run. I mean, look,
play dumb games, you win dumb prizes, man.
Well, and this is the thing too. I know several people that have been taken in for a DUI. I have been fortunate to never have a DUI. Have I driven drunk? Yes, I have. Have I would say 99% of Americans done this?
100% of people who have drank and drunk. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely. So
even cops.
Yeah. Even cops, no question.
Cops are the worst offenders. I mean,
there's
some huge alcoholic police officers. I know some personally. So they're the worst offenders.
Me too.
Right. But this is the thing that I want to get at. Us, man, like, look, and I hate to say it as a black man, but there's got to be some accountability. We have to take responsibility for our actions. I know me personally, if I would have been in that situation, I would have complied with the police officer, because this is the thing, and we already know the odds are against us. I'm under the assumption that if my black ass turns around and starts running, the odds of my black ass getting shot is probably pretty high, whether I grab his taser or not. I'm just not going to give the police officer the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I don't have trust in our justice system, let alone a police officer who's a human being who probably has stereotypes in his head. So
Did the cops tell him, Rayshard Brooks, that they were actually videotaping the whole incident? Did they come up and be, I mean, not that he would even know because he was drunk, but did they announce, hey, look, this is all being videotaped. You're on camera.
Not that I heard of.
No, and
I wonder if that would have helped.
And they usually don't. I mean, I think it's kind of common knowledge. Maybe it's not common knowledge, but most people know that they've got the body.
Maybe you act different. Maybe you act different when you know you're on TV.
Hey,
I don't know.
And let me put my white privilege down for a minute, because I'll be honest with you. I don't feel confident that I can throw 2 cops, run, and not get shot either. Like that, I would think I'm getting shot. Now maybe I wouldn't, but I'm not rolling those dice, and I'm white. I'm just not doing it. I will say the problem is he's out on parole. He had served 7 years for beating up his kids, had 2 felony charges for that. Now, again, I'm not saying that plays in this case, except for the fact it kind of does, because I think that's what was in the back of his mind in terms of, if I can get away, then I'm not going back to jail. And if I get taken to jail, I'm not going to jail. I'm going to prison.
Yeah, it was a different scenario for him. It was a different circumstance.
Correct.
But then that's the other thing too. If you're out on parole, you just serve a 7-year sentence. You got to be kind of walking on eggshells out
And
here.
I think,
you know what I mean? You got to make some better decisions.
I think Kenny mentioned
again,
it.
I'm not putting the blame on him. He didn't deserve to be shot at all, and I want to make that 1,000% clear. But this is the thing, and I just want to tell a quick little story. So when I was 22 years old, I had been out drinking, and I was driving home. It was about 2:00 in the morning, and I got stopped by a police officer in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. And the police officer, I didn't lie to him. I told him I had had a few drinks, and he asked me for my ID. He saw that it was my birthday. I told him it was my birthday. And did he have every right to take me in? Absolutely. Did he take me in? He did not take me in. He told me, he said, hey, listen, I'm not going to let you continue to operate this vehicle. And I'm going to give you 4 phone calls. I'll never forget it. He was like, if you can't find somebody to come pick your ass up, that you got 4 chances at 2:00 in the morning, man. And on the 4th chance, my one of my best friends, Terrence, he was like, all right, I'll come and get you. And she came and picked me up. And so he left. He didn't even impound my car. He left my car on the side of the road, Route 3. And I was able to be picked up. Now that is good.
My good buddy had that same thing happen to him. Yep.
Yeah, and that because look, I was 22 years old. A DUI that could really hurt somebody. That could ruin somebody's record. And I think police officers, and it's not their responsibility to think of your life when you made a bad decision, but I do think that there should be a human aspect to their.
And that's why I asked how many DUIs he had. Because if it was his first, maybe the cops were a little more lenient with him. But if they ran his name and they saw that he drank, this was his 3rd or 4th offense, then obviously when the cop made him blow and he was drunk again, 3rd, 4th offense, your ass is going in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a different ball game. And then again, he was out on parole too, so.
And it's also it's really frustrating. Look, and this is putting his situation aside. Okay, again, I have a problem with people saying, "Well, he didn't deserve to die." Well, of course not, right? It's not like they pulled up and were like, "You're drunk," boom, right? Like that's not why he died, right? And so when I turn on, I looked at CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, CNN, and you see quotes that are like, unarmed black man shot in back. It's like, well, hold on. Like, yes. So that's not dishonest.
Well, but it is slightly disingenuous because he did take the police officer's taser and he shot it at
unarmed.
So he wasn't unarmed. I mean, he started out unarmed. Right. He finished armed, right?
Yeah, innocent? Was he really innocent? I don't know.
Well, I mean,
he definitely wasn't innocent.
Well, he definitely wasn't innocent. He blew, and he was drunk. So, I mean, you still have the presumption of guilt in your favor until you're tried and convicted in a court of law.
That's my point.
That's pretty damning. That's pretty damning evidence when you blow into that breathalyzer, and your BCA, your BAC rather, pops up.
Shout out to my lawyer. I didn't blow.
Yeah. Hey, and by the way, my attorney taught me that as well too. Look, don't blow.
Right.
Take it on the chin. Never blow. If you blow, they got you. They got you. But the other part too, guys, is his family. His family went live today in front of the news media. They gave a statement, and they're basically pleading for justice and change. And I do agree there needs to be some sort of change and some sort of police reform or reform to the culture of policing as we know it, for sure. But in this case, you also have to take some responsibility. Black people, we have to take responsibility and be accountable for our actions out here, right? Look, I don't think I need to say it again that he didn't deserve to die, but when you flee and elude from the police, and then when you start grabbing at their weaponry, you're putting yourself at a very high risk, very, very high risk. And I don't think that just goes for black people, but I would say it's even heightened if you are black. So, just like Kenny said, he's a white guy. He may have been shot too, right? Because this is the thing. I think if he would have just turned around,
I don't know.
And if he would have just turned around and started running, I do think that the cop probably would have tased him. Because the cop didn't just shoot him automatically. He actually did give chase. And then once Brooks turned around and hit him with the taser, Yeah,
Right.
then he felt like he had to protect himself, because let me paint a scenario for you. Let's say Mr. Brooks turns around, hits him in the neck or something with that taser, and you got the cop seized up and he drops. And then Rayshard Brooks is able to really get his gun and potentially cause damage to the cop that's seized up and the other cop, right? So, look, you got to respect yourself. You got to respect police officers as well, too. Like, I know they're under a lot of scrutiny right now, and rightfully so, but have respect for yourself. And if you have respect for yourself, I think you're going to have respect for police officers. Everybody's got to respect everybody here.
And I just want to give a big giant, I hope this doesn't hurt the video, but I want to give a big giant fuck you to the idea that they just keep putting. Let me explain to the public, if they don't understand what a lawyer's job is, okay? A lawyer's job is not to tell you the truth. It's to tell you a possible maybe truth that you're going to sell so that you can get whatever you're trying to get as an attorney. So when somebody has died, putting an attorney on the microphone and then putting his family up, I mean, I'll tell you this personal story. I've been to probably 5 to 10, I don't even know. I lost count of how many funerals I've been to. Most of the funerals I've been to are those people's faults, okay? And you know what you don't do at a funeral? You don't go, hey, if he wasn't doing this dumb shit, he would still be alive, right? So why are we putting a mic in front of some mother and asking her what she thinks of her son, or some wife and asking what she thinks of her husband, when we just watched the video and the dude he probably committed 10 crimes in that video? Like, that is just a bad idea. I think first of all, I feel bad for her, right? I mean, she just lost her husband. The kids lost their dad, even though based on his history, I don't know if it's those kids, the ones that got charged with it, but it's a tough situation for people. I don't understand why they had it live streamed on both CNN and Fox, because I listened to it on both of them. And it was actually kind of interesting because CNN had somebody crying closer to their microphone, so it made it sound even more dramatic, which was wild as I was flipping through the two. But I'm like, why do I want to hear this? This person is completely biased, as I would. I mean, if my brother was caught in the middle of something that he should have been doing, he died, I'm still going to tell the world he's the greatest dude on earth. I mean, it's a bad look.
I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a bad look. I just think that, the media needs to know both sides of things. At the end of the day, this was a human being. This was a father. This was a husband. And people make bad decisions. I certainly have.
I think Kenny mentioned it earlier, Glenn. I think he said earlier that, look, listen, if there's a police chase on a major highway, they back off once they get your license plate, VIN number, all that good stuff on file, or they'll tell the helicopter to take over. In this situation, there was no malice, no intent to start, right? They were being cordial. Hey, look, he wants to run with the taser. Let him freaking go. We got his license. We got his car. We'll find out where he's at. We'll get him at a later time.
Just hard letting. If he didn't have the taser, I'm
sure.
Almost
right.
With the fact that you don't chase him.
Good point.
Right.
And
once
not
you get
only
your
that,
taser, you don't know what this dude's going to do with your taser, and
that's a good point.
The other dude had to have ran his stuff, so they probably already knew he was a felon, and they're like,
now he has a weapon. Now he has a weapon.
That is.
Yep. And he's drunk. And he's drunk.
And I think it's natural instinct. Once somebody, grabs you, violates you, to almost defend yourself, and especially if you're in a position of authority where you're sworn to bring in criminals. I can understand it. I would give
here's
chase
another
for maybe.
thing. Here's another thing that came up. So if you watch the videos, on the last video that I saw in the sequencing, it was the guy who had shot the guy's video. And there was a black supervisor that comes over to him. He's like, hey, man, how are you doing? Are you all right? And the guy's like, well, how's the guy? Right? That's the first thing this dude asked. How's the guy? And the black police, I don't know if he's a chief, sergeant, something. Yeah. He was like, I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about you. Are you all right? You need to call your wife. How are you feeling? We heard what went down. Are you good? We got your back. We just want to make sure you're okay. Which I thought was
let's be clear. Let's be clear. We've been pretty harsh about the Good Old Boy Network. That's not good old boy network. That's looking out for your people. There's a big difference.
A big difference.
Yeah.
I mean, so, it's on the body cam. Nobody lied about what happened.
So then
it's clear as day.
Instantly, this guy gets fired. And then the problem that I had, and again, I'm not saying you can't ask the family 2-3 days later once things decompress some, but you get them out there, they're calling for murder. They're saying this guy murdered. So
I mean, the
I could literally go to a George Floyd march with a sign that says George Floyd was murdered, which we've all discussed. I believe it. All three of us here believe it. And then I could also have a sign that says, that I'm in favor of this cop. I'm not even in favor of losing his job, let alone being called a killer. He definitely should not be charged with murder. I mean, that is, good gracious.
I think people have in their head, like people just have this idea in their head, like, oh, shoot him in the leg, shoot him in the ankle. And it sounds good. It sounds real good in the moment. It's just not very realistic, especially when you have somebody firing a taser at your face.
In real life,
and I hate to say it. Look, I'm a black person. I think there needs to be police reform. Like I am not one to side with the police at all, and I'm not really siding with the police now. But when you look at the facts and when you look at the video, when you look at everything, I mean, there's a boatload of evidence here that has been made public. Right, and it hasn't been presented in a way that has an agenda.
Could there have been things? Could there have been things done different to save this individual's life? Sure, we can Monday morning quarterback all day long, but we're not.
And that's one of the reasons why I want to overemphasize what we've discussed on this show, which is decriminalizing certain things, making things not jailable, and then along with, and I think we're all in favor of this, is more options towards non-lethal force. And it's funny because me and Glenn talked about this the other day, not in this unique circumstance, but I would be okay with some non-lethal stuff that hurts, you know what I mean? Ways
rubber
that we
bullets?
can do this. Really tight rubber bullets that hurt almost as bad.
Yeah, and by the way, rubber bullets aren't non-lethal. They're less lethal, but you can die from a rubber bullet. But I think it's a much better option than getting shot.
The thing, and it's actually the same thing. It's funny because I was thinking about our discussion the other day when I heard this person say, "Well, the stun gun is non-lethal." Well, it's actually less lethal.
Less lethal.
There's a lot of these things that are less lethal.
You could die from a taser. You could. It depends. If you got a heart condition or something, people have died from being tased for sure. But and look, we talked about different scenarios and things like that. We also talked about less laws being on the books, which I'm 100% in agreement with. But in the case of Rayshard Brooks, he was on parole. I think even if there were less laws on the books, he was going to jail anyway. He was going to go to jail.
Listen, the first cop could have been cordial because he rolled up and he was treating this individual like a normal human being. Like, hey, look, man, I don't even know this dude. I'm just trying to be, hey, look, let's just get through this. And then the second cop might have rolled up on scene. He might have already had the information and had the background on this individual. And that's why he came up kind of, I don't know. We don't know. That's just all.
Yeah, we don't know. But the second cop definitely came. He was an asshole. I'm gonna be honest with you. The second cop came up like he was an asshole, but he
wasn't friendly. I don't know if I call somebody that's not friendly an asshole because he didn't say anything.
He was doing his job.
I've had cops be an asshole. To me, that wasn't. If that was being an asshole, I think every cop's always been an asshole to me, except for
he definitely wasn't like a CJ Meeks or something. I know the story just came out of Officer CJ Meeks that resigned about a year or so ago that had punched a 19-year-old in the face, and I think it was in Georgia, like Carlton, Georgia, or something like that. He was an asshole. He was talking to him like, "Hey, listen here." He's pointing his finger. At him, stuff
here's
like
the
that.
problem, right?
He wasn't
here's the
doing
problem.
all that.
Are we now supposed to, if the cops get a call and there's a drunk individual in the parking lot sitting in his car while the car's running, are they just going to be like, hey, no, see, we're not going to come now. No, that's not good for us. Not a good look. Sorry. There's nothing we can do. Call somebody else. We're going to get to
that. About what's interesting is the normal Kenny, if that was my situation, my first inclination would be go up, if I'm behind at Wendy's, come up, tap on a window so that the cops don't get involved or nothing. But there's a part of me that was thinking, would I do that right now? In this environment, would I go up and knock on somebody's window? Especially if I thought that with race, I probably wouldn't. The old me would have. Now I'm a white guy knocking on this dude's window. I don't know if this dude's going to shoot me now because he thinks I'm trying to come at him or, if he's got a gun. I don't know if he's got a gun. I mean, there's all these things that it's such a high temperament right now.
Heightened emotions, man.
It is, man.
And you know what? And that's sad. That's honestly sad that in this day and age, in 2020, we're afraid to knock on a fellow man's window to help him out in fear that he may think, based on a skin color or because you fit someone's idea of a stereotype, that you might be coming at them, or you have something negative in mind rather than positive. That's just really sad.
And I think it's very possible that same stereotype was in Rayshard Brooks's head, possibly, right?
Yeah, I mean, with everything that's going on, do you not think Rayshard Brooks
knock on a cop's window
think about Minnesota? I mean, obviously he thought about it. He had to have thought about it. Of course, on everyone's brain.
It's on everyone's mind. When a black man is being dealt with by the police right now, they're thinking, "Is this going to be my last breath?" I mean, it is what it is, and that's sad too.
And I think Kenny brought this up earlier. From now on, is every black man going to run because they're scared now? Because then that's going to lead to more deaths, isn't it?
Yeah, we talked about it before. I mean, that's obviously not the right answer. There needs to be some sort of change, and I get that cops are out. That they most have, not most, but some have bad intentions towards race. I don't know if a lot of them do, though. I think a lot of them want to do the job the right way.
Well, so what do we feel about the mayor of Atlanta that pretty much just
crucified him? Crucified
him, man. I mean,
yeah, left him out to hang. I mean, left him out to hang, for lack of a better term. That's what she did.
Find a better term.
Like at the end of the day, it's a black man dead at the hands of police again, less than a month after George Floyd, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for police. But also, again, I'm calling for black people to help ourselves. Help ourselves. Not just black people, all people. Mm-hmm. Like help ourselves.
I mean,
right? Don't be running from the police. Don't be grabbing at their shit.
I don't think the solution is blowing up your damn Wendy's. Now 30 people are out of a freaking job.
Hey, these are crazy times we live in right now, man. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say for it. But yeah, man, we've got coronavirus coming up. We've got COVID-19, and so
we got a whole bunch, boys. We got a whole bunch.
Yeah,
feel
free.
Floyd, Aubrey, Taylor, Chaz, anything you want to talk about, it's open market right now. Let's recap everything on the first 10 episodes. What we got? What do you want, Kenny? Where are you going next?
I wanted to talk about COVID. There's been a lot of reports out there. They're really talking a lot about, the case number, because the case number has increased. I think it's very important to look at the deaths and the hospitalizations. And so when you look at the deaths, the chart's pretty clear. It's continually dropping, not in the starkest decline ever, but it's declining. And it's continually declined for about a month and a half, even with the reopenings, even with people. They actually did a study about people that were, they did a 1,300 protester study, and out of the people, they went at, I guess it was about 7 days. So it should show up on testing. They went, got tested, and only 1.7%, which is actually almost, it's less than half of what the average is out of the average people. It's 1.7% of the protesters came back positive, which is good news. It's good news. But it leads you to think that maybe it's not, for whatever reason, it's not connecting that way. And that was a poll done by the Twin Cities of Minnesota. These are all 1,300 Minnesota protesters. So this isn't a bias. This isn't somebody with really a political agenda. They just did this study. The other thing that I noticed was hospitalizations. I went through most of the areas. I actually looked at Maryland, Georgia, and Alabama, since that's the three places we live. I just picked those. And 0.5% of people have it in Georgia, 1% of people have it in Maryland, and less than 0.5% of people, almost a third of people have it in Alabama. Their death count's 158 per 100,000 in Alabama, 231 per 100,000 in Georgia, and 500 per 100,000 in Maryland. Which is funny because Maryland's been the most closed down out of the three of them. And so,
and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about really fast too, because based on studies done by the Associated Press, and I kind of take their studies with a grain of salt too, because sometimes they do have a political agenda behind their analysis. I don't think that they do in this case, but it's in my opinion that I think the lockdown has actually kind of hurt. A lack of physical activity, a lack of sunlight doesn't do anything positive for this virus.
And if you seclude yourself, your immune system's not going to know how to fight off anything.
Well, and I think that quarantine, if you have it and you have a family, I think quarantine is necessary.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to. So I just want to be clear about that. But in general, just a lockdown, because, and just to be clear, we've got 2.2 million confirmed cases nationwide. We've got 118,000 deaths confirmed nationwide as of yesterday. So governors across the country have eased up off the lockdowns. I mean, what are they going to do after all the rioting? They're going to lock people down again. I think it's kind of funny.
Makes you wonder.
But I do want to talk about this really quick because, and I don't know if this is just due to an increase in testing, which I'm kind of leaning toward that direction. But the rolling 7-day average, so every 7 days, every state in the country does an average of new cases. So the rolling 7-day average of new cases per capita has been higher than the average of previous 7-day results in 21 states. And this is as of yesterday as well, June 14th. And that was according to an analysis done by the Associated Press. So again, as of yesterday, we've got Alaska, we've got Arizona, Arkansas, we've got California, Florida, Kentucky, New Mexico, South Carolina, Mississippi. We've got Oregon. We've got I said South Carolina already, Tennessee, Texas, Utah. And we even have Puerto Rico that have all reported higher 7-day averages since the pandemic begun. And this was as of yesterday. So kind of want to see what you guys thought about that. Again, it's my take that I think because of the increase in testing, we're starting to see a slight increase in the 7-day average. It doesn't mean that there's more cases as a whole. It just means that the average is going up, and which is why we also see the increase in hospitalization and things like that. But what do you guys think?
I know that based on what because that's what I was looking for. I had seen a bunch of studies about that. So the first thing I did, and let me see if I can get this up for our audience, but I wanted to be able to put up this.
The chart.
I wanted to show the total deaths because, see, the thing is deaths even though there's some adjustment there, it's non-negotiable that if this translates into death, it's going to be on this chart. Yeah, you go. And so as you can see, there's a little bit of peak and valley in each one. I think sometimes it's the day that they're recording it on, but as you can see, how many days we had above 2,000. And then now we haven't had an above 2,000 days since about May 4th. And so here we are, June 15th. I think that's a big sample size to be able to look at. The other thing I did was I went through the last 9 states to shut down. Out of the last 9 states to shut down, the highest ranking one was the 20th, which was Iowa. The rest of them are number 37, number 46, number 44. These are all out of 51 because DC is included. Number 36, number 35, number 41. Arkansas never shut down, and they're number 41.
Right.
And people can say, oh, well, these are not just total numbers. These are based off per 100,000. So some of these places are definitely more socially distanced naturally.
Arkansas, I mean, it's pretty spread out.
Of course, it's not going to be the same as New York and New Jersey. So I understand that, but we were still telling them to shut down. That was one of my issues from the beginning, is that to me, California, Atlanta, not all of Georgia, but Atlanta, San Francisco, LA, we could have shut down 9 or 10 cities instead of shutting everybody down. And I mean, I looked at Wisconsin the other day. They have like 300 deaths in the whole state. I mean, the numbers are just so low. Arkansas actually, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in terms of maybe shutting down a few cities, I think it sounds good on the surface. My whole thing is, and we can debate it, but Americans, I've known Americans in general to be pretty stubborn people. Americans like their freedom, which is why you saw a lot of the protests and things like that 3 weeks into the lockdowns. People wanted to get out, and I didn't agree with the whole essential, non-essential thing. But if you just shut down cities, what's going to stop other cities from coming into certain cities or certain areas? So I do think that they did the right thing by locking down the entire country. I don't think it should have been as long. What I do think should have happened, though, Kenny, and I kind of agree with you to a point, is I think we should have locked down the entire country, but then rapidly began to open back up certain cities that had lower cases and things like that. And then ease back into it. I don't think the whole country should have been shut down.
Especially if they're
So
not,
what I
especially
think
if they're not
was-
cities where people visit, right?
Well, first of all, here's what I see. I would have had a multi-tiered approach, and I actually did a video on this 5 months ago. But my approach would have been, yes, I would have shut down the cities. Now, yes, the major ones. I understand that some people would still go in and out. But if the goal is to socially distance, you already assume that not everyone's going to do it. But then I also would have quarantined, because we found out really early that it was affecting old people unproportionately. They should have pretty much across the country should have self-quarantined. And here's the thing. You don't have, I'm sure we all three heard it. I can't go to the bar, Kenny, because if I go to the bar and I stand next to somebody else and I have it and I'm asymptomatic and that person goes home and gives it to their 95-year-old grandmother, it becomes my fault. Well, that's everything that I disagree with as a libertarian, right? Like, at the end of the day, you are responsible for your health. So if you are an 85-year-old person, then you and whoever your caretaker is or yourself is responsible. Now, they have things where you can order online, and we need to have more communities and that type of thing. But if we would have,
and just really quick, accountability. Like, people just act like accountability isn't real. If you live with your 85-year-old grandmother and you're her primary or even secondary caretaker, what the hell are you doing going out to a bar in the middle of a pandemic? Like, you should be staying your ass home. Like, this is like simple common sense 1, 2, 3 knowledge. And nobody just wants to be accountable for their own actions. Nobody wants to be accountable for their health or the health of their loved ones that they're responsible for taking care of. So, like, that's a real thing. Like, you cannot, you can not go to the bar. You can keep it just to, essential grocery stores, things like that. And then with ordering online and, thanks, Fred. with ordering online and things like that, it makes it easy. You don't have to get out of your car anymore. Now, I will say this with the ordering online thing. I know ordering online has been backed up. You got to order your stuff like 2-3 weeks ahead of time since this whole thing happened. So I get that.
Not if you live here.
Just plan accordingly. But if you live in New York or New Jersey, that you're like a month out. So, you got to plan accordingly, but you got to take some responsibility for your own stuff, man. Like, it just.
And I think that's the big thing nowadays, right? Is everybody likes to blame someone else.
Right. It's crazy.
Actually, when we're talking about blaming others, this is a terribly sad case, but I wanted to bring it up tonight, and I don't want to butcher her name, but Alawatoyin Salau, it looks like, at 19 years old.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and it stinks because she's out there protesting. And this is kind of something that I've brought up, but one of the things she said was the enemy is white racist people in Tallahassee. And then she gets killed by a 49-year-old African-American. Now, does that mean every African-American is murdered? Of course not. But it's just so terrible that we have, there are murderers out there. There are people out there. And this guy killed a white lady that was 75 years, allegedly. Has not been convicted yet, but he is arrested under suspicion of killing her and a 75-year-old white lady named Vicky Sims, both of these people are fighting for the right thing, right? They're fighting against racism. They want to make good change in the world. But this literally plays to what the all the way right says when they're like, well, the worst thing is black on black crime, right? And it's like, it's just sad. It's frustrating because we do need to look at things in terms of reality within numbers. Her odds, unfortunately, like when I first saw she's killed by Aaron Glee, just because the numbers of it what do you think? Who do you think I think Erin Glee is if she's a young black woman? Well, my first thought is some black man, right? And then it's him. And I'm almost discouraged because I'm like, gosh damn it. Like, a part of me wishes it was a white dude because then it just doesn't, like, I like when stuff doesn't play into stereotypes. But it's just sad. I feel for her family. You know, this young girl seems like she had some depression and stuff. And she had actually been sexually harassed a couple times while doing these marches. So
she had been sexually assaulted. She had been sexually assaulted as well, too.
Yep.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the gentleman that killed her was the one that sexually assaulted her. If I'm not mistaken.
No.
Am I wrong there?
Yes.
Okay.
She had went to somebody's house before the guy, you know, she had been protesting.
Right.
Got dirty. The guy said, you can come to my house and shower. Next thing you know, he's getting off on her. And that, you know, it kind of goes to my virtue signaling point that I go, and again, I'm not going to lump everybody at these everybody at this protest is not a molester or a sexual abuser, but these people who the virtue signal captains, they just always seem to be like the people that yell the loudest, and then you look in their closet and you're like, what is going on? I mean, it's just discouraging. So I just wanted to give a shout out to hopefully her family and that she can rest in peace and their family gets a little bit of peace from the situation. I just think it's horrible. You got anything on that, Glenn?
Yeah, man, it's really it's a sad situation. That seems to be the word for tonight. Sad. Been saying sad a lot, but you know, she was a young lady, and if you look at some of her tweets and some of the things that she had put on Facebook, again, you know, you kind of touched on it. You know, she was saying that, you know, the racist white man is her enemy. I don't disagree with that, but it's like, what can you do? You know, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good that she was killed by another black person, and I hate it. It really hurts everything that we have going on right now, the change and the reform that we're looking to get, that we're working towards, and that we're you know, so diligently you know, working at. I mean, it's just, how can we do this stuff, and how can we do this stuff to each other? And if we're doing it to each other, then how can we expect other people to give half of a shit if we don't? You know, my heart goes out to her family. This is absolutely a tragedy, and it's horrific. It is awful. I'm just,
and I will put this out there,
totally disgusted, just disgusted, man. Like. I don't even care who gets mad at me. Like, I've got my family sitting out there. You know, I've got my parents. You know, I've got my brother. Man, we got to do better. We have to do better. You already know, black people. There's a fine microscope on the black community, especially right now. Especially now that we're like this close to really getting some real change done. Like we're on pins and needles with this thing, man. How is it? Like, how can we be grabbing tasers from police and running? How can we be killing our own brothers and sisters? I mean, it doesn't matter if she was black. Like how can we just be doing these things, even if it's to a white person?
I will tell you this. I'm going to add this in there just in case you didn't know.
I'm just frustrated about it. I'm frustrated.
Right. And this goes back to, I know I do a lot of patting our show on the back, but the truth is this guy had 3 felonies before, and it's like, those are major crimes, and you're letting these people out because we're flooding the system with bullshit. So if we can, you know, be really hard on people that are doing really bad, violent offenders, then we probably save this situation. It's just frustrating each time I see it, because that's the way I look at it. I don't give a damn what color they are. It frustrates me because I go, we let this guy with 3 felonies out, and I'm sure there's some dude in there for his cocaine possession that I just don't care that much about. I just don't. There was also,
it's pretty sad, really, really fast. You know, just to kind of piggyback off what you said, policing shouldn't be a business. It shouldn't be a business. Like, the primary concern of police officers should not be to make money, should not be to hit quotas, should not be to bring in some sort of revenue or drive revenue. That is not it. And that's the main reason. That's the number one reason why we have all these petty laws on the books. And we're locking people up for weed charges because they couldn't afford a proper attorney, because all they could get was a public defender.
We're already taxed enough. Already taxed enough. And now they're hitting us up on all these little charges.
I don't know that you guys heard about these 2 cases, but I'm hoping I hope that Black Lives Matter says something about this and maybe can catch the guy. But there was 2 guys that did a drive-by shooting in Philadelphia, killed a 7-year-old named Sincere Parker. Freaking horrible. I mean, drive-by shooting at a basketball court. This little kid had just got outside to be able to play because of the COVID, takes his bike down there, and I thought it was a boy. Yeah, loses his life. And then there was 2 14-year-olds that just got sentenced. Hopefully they got arrested for the killing of a teenage girl at Columbia University. She got robbed out in front of Columbia, 18 years old. It's just, we need to start, segregating is not the right word, but in our mind between people who are doing horrible things and should be held accountable, and everybody should be saying who that person is and pointing that person out, and that person does something horrific, and people that are doing, things that we've all done before. We really can't be hypocrites when it comes to that stuff. And it boils me. We're at a point where there's a lot of good. We're so close to, I think, some real legislation coming through. I don't know if you guys heard this, but Trump had talked about he's against chokeholds. So I think on a federal level, we might be able to get some of this stuff done. And the last thing we need is for people to overreact, because I'm saying them on this show. But let's be honest, it's actually a small percentage of this happening. Just like when people go, well, here's this one video that I found on Google. And it's like, well, if this is a small percentage, let's not lose focus. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm bringing these things up to sway the focus. I want our focus to be on fixing the problems. But this is why it's so important for us to fix the legal systems, because legislation change is going to fix way before all of a sudden we're going to, cure evil, because that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, burning down a Wendy's isn't the solution.
No. And just really quick, just to be clear, when you hear Kenny and I talking about having less laws on the books, we're not in any sort of way, shape, or form agreeing with the notion of abolishing or no police. We're saying less laws on the books because defund the police really in its fundamental form means just that. It means taking some money away from police and reallocating it to things that are going to keep people out of jail. Over 30% of criminals have a mental health issue. So if they're reallocating this money toward mental health issues, towards things like addiction, towards social service needs, you're gonna, and then there's less laws on the books to go along with that, which is going to mean less police action, which ultimately is going to mean less police officers. It's going to be better for everybody. We're right now we're over policed, and the only reason why we're over policed is because police are actually going out and they're trying to create crimes. They're looking for crimes instead of spotting the crime when it happens, because they're trying to meet a quota, or they're pulling you over because you have a tail light out, right? And then they're fishing around. They're trying to smell and sniff to see if you've got some weed in your car or something. They're
trying to find a crime instead of investigate a crime.
Investigating. Right.
I want to be clear on this. I'm not even sure in terms of number of police. If I would rather have, I think our detective to fleet police officer needs to be a better ratio, because to me, I would rather have 3 officers right now trying to find the murderer of that 7-year-old boy than I would writing traffic tickets and looking for their next weed bust. I am far more interested in that child's family getting justice. I'm more interested in, now Salu's person, I think they got him, but I am more interested in those types of cases. I'm more interested in finding people who are doing horrible things and detective work that can solve those problems than I am trying to, hope somebody broke a law and I just happen to catch them. And I will say on the defund police thing, the reason why I won't say that I support defunding police is because the message has just not, I just heard the other day, Charlemagne the God said that nobody said abolish. And it's like, but then you watch the videos, the person's got the bullhorn saying abolish. They're sending notices that say abolish. And so then all of a sudden you're like, well, who does? who does or doesn't believe in this, because people don't know. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she said, this seems asinine to me. And I go, it's tough because I have a buddy that's a friend of mine that says, hey, this is what defunding means. And then you go listen to this person, they say, this is what defunding means. You talk to that person, and this is what defunding means. So all I, Kenny, am going to speak to is I am for less funding for the police. But that's because I think that if we take some of these laws on the books and reallocate the funds, I think it will be better. So if somebody calls that defund, then so be it. I'm not saying abolish. I think police are important, but I would rather have more detectives, because I believe the more important crimes are the concern. And actually, sorry, I know I'm long-winded right here, Glenn, but one thing I want to get on is I just talked to somebody yesterday about whether or not drugs should be legal or illegal. And they have the Ben Shapiro mindset that they should all be illegal. And I asked the person, if heroin was legal right now, are you going to do it? The answer's no, I'm not. And you know what? If I was going to do it, the law is not going to stop me. I have a lot of friends who have died from using it. It was illegal. So it clearly isn't the answer. The legal system has done a crappy job of doing it. So I'm going to try to keep my tongue. But I mean, that stuff is just, we have to stop doing it that way.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Drugs should, and this is the thing. Again, if you're gonna get high, if you're gonna do whatever it is that you're gonna do, like, you're gonna do it. Like, it's not like you're gonna call the police and say, "Hey, I'm gonna get high really quick. Can you come stop me?" Like who does that? So yeah, I agree 100%. And it all goes back to making money. Police make money off of this stuff, and prisons make money off of this stuff. They get $41 a day per prisoner. Whether it's privatized or not, they're all government sanctioned. So that's really what it boils down to. I don't agree at all with the imprisonment of people or policing people being a for-profit industry.
All right, so here we go, boys. I mean, all great, and I'm sure the audience is loving it. We got tons of feedback right now that we got to go over. So I'm gonna go into our first one. We got Andrew Kuhn. He's like, I'd like to know, where's all the noise for the Black Ranger in Florida that was gunned down? Does he not count because he was an officer? I mean, I think, Glennon, you touched on this earlier about, some of the crimes that we're dealing with right now that are kind of drawing people's attention away from the focus.
Had you even heard that, Glenn? Because I hadn't even heard that one. As sad as that is.
I did. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I heard about it.
What was the case there? What happened?
It was an officer, and I believe he was trying to protect it wasn't like rioters. It wasn't rioters, but they were trying to do damage or something like that to a storefront, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm pretty certain he was off duty, and he was trying to help. Duty.
Yeah,
he was trying to help, and he ended up getting shot while he was off duty. And it was a hit and run.
Right. So, and again, there should be noise about it. This is my whole thing. When you hear people, Black people in general, or even white people saying Black Lives Matter, that's exactly what it is. The Black Lives Matter. We've talked about it before. It doesn't mean that all lives don't matter, right? But in the case where, you've got an officer being killed, whether they're Black, white, that needs to be called out. So instead of trying to tell another Black person or a Black Lives Matter supporter that all lives matter, how about telling the media that all lives matter? Because why is it that the media only wants to show a Black person being killed at the hands of a white police officer? Or, I mean, really, that's it. Or any sort of division or race murder, right? But they don't want to show the Daniel Shavers of the world, the Patricia Cooks of the world. They don't want to show the gentleman, the white guy in Texas. Why is that? We should be telling the media that all lives matter. You don't have to say that to somebody that supports the Black Lives Matter movement. We already know that Black people have unproportionately died at the hands of police, right? So that's what it is. Don't try to defer or negate what the Black Lives Matter movement currently is for and is trying to bring awareness to. It should be the media that you're saying, hey, all lives matter. Show this shit too. Everybody should be talking about the Black Ranger in Florida.
And
right?
I think, yeah, of course. And I think the way the media portrays things is horrible. Like, they always say innocent white man or innocent Black man gunned down by white cop or Black cop. Why can't it just be man gunned down by cop, or you know what I mean? Like they have to throw in those racial, you know what I mean? Like profiles just to get us all heated and emotional.
I pulled up CNN today because clearly to prepare for the show, I go to about 9 different news networks and look at their front page, talking about doing that last week. I did that this week again. Didn't even see that guy on there, which is a shame. Not right. Nine different front pages.
It's not going to be on CNN. I actually came across it on. I did come across it on another left wing media source.
Okay. I didn't see it on any of the main ones, but my point is that what I did see on CNN's was the front cover today was a picture of the 50s riots, some video footage compared to today's, which actually looked a lot worse for the 50s. I don't know why they were trying to make it look the same. It didn't really look the same, but they tried. But it's like, and Fox does this too. I'm so with the over exaggeration of the Antifa thing that's happening in CHOP, and I don't think there's been some bad there too. And then some good, some decent stuff.
Wait, did I just hear Kenny say that? Did I just hear Kenny admit that there's been over exaggeration from the media in terms of talks of Antifa?
For sure.
Did I hear that correctly?
Yes. But here's the thing.
Thank you.
Here's the thing, though. It is because there is no opposition in there, right? Like a dude came in with the flag, they basically chased him out. But I actually thought a dude took a high road. There's one dude, it looked like he's from Africa or something, gave him back his flag. There were some other people saying some real nasty stuff to him and threatening him and that kind of stuff. But it's this utopia. But my point is that all of it is just they want us to be in a race war so bad they can taste it. Just I mean, they love it. It's so obnoxious. And
unity is the last thing they want, man.
They hate it because if we all came together, and the truth is we actually all agree on about 75% of things, then the government wouldn't have any power. And they're so thirsty for power. People on the right, people on the left, I mean, they just try to make the side sound either careless or hateful, and it's just simply obnoxious. I want to get on to and I thought you handled that whole question well, Glenn, so I didn't want to drag that on too long on my end. But I wanted to just get to something Jake said about bringing back the family, because I had a long discussion with somebody about this central black family compared to 50 years ago. What's funny is that, and we've talked about this before, but the amount of dads in the home and things like that within the black community, and we can just say in every community, right? Because it's just dropped worse in the black community, but it's dropped all the way across the board. And a lot of it comes from and I'm not going to come off anti-mom here, okay? But the reality is when you look at the stats of what they decide to give all these benefits and make it so that somebody could break up with somebody or not get married, and then they get a plethora of benefits. Within 40 years, you crushed the family. And so I know it doesn't sound great, but there's certain things like having a mandated 50-50 custody that you have to prove that one of the people is unfit in order to get more than that. That should be standardized. That's sexist. You can't just, there was a case today with transsexual rights. If a transsexual rights activation, we still don't have equal rights for parents. I mean, regardless of demographic.
My first marriage, I didn't even have a kid. When we got divorced, the judge told me, state of Maryland, I had to pay for that woman to live her next 4 years because she was used to the lifestyle I provided her. Are you? I'm being punished because I worked and she didn't. I didn't.
Well, here's the thing: is we can go all day on that stuff, but I wanted to bring it up because the family comment. If we want to have better family groups, then we have to encourage people to not. We can't give benefits to people to not be together. It doesn't make sense. And it's the funny thing is people talk about child support. Child support only gets paid by 25% of people anyways. So when that's not even the portion, the government benefits are worth way more than most girls get in child support. And so there's just all these things that encourage the central family to be destroyed. And then people who know my personal situation know that I've, basically had to jump through every hoop in the book. And it's like most people give up. And then when a dad's not around, the stats are overwhelming. People are going to end up in jail. People are going to do drugs. 700 times more likely to have a pregnancy by a teenage daughter. I mean, the list goes on and on. Prison population. And so if you want to help families, we must start with 50-50 custody. We have to stop with this. Oh, dads don't know how. They will get better at it. They might not be good at it at first. They'll get better. It's just how it works. They'll be okay.
Well, this is the other thing, and I think you made a great point. Just to touch on what Fred said really quick, and just to be fair, because I do agree with you, because about 75% of cases do go in the favor of the mother, and it's also portrayed that way in the media. But just to be fair, I do know two gentlemen, actually. They have good attorneys, and their relationship was on the outs, and their attorneys actually told the dads, hey, if you guys actually file for divorce first, then you'll be the ones to get the money. And that's exactly what happened. So a lot of people just don't know their rights as a man, and it's very rare. But I just want
to add something about that women, you would think, I mean, I did, right? When you look at who files for custody more, women files for divorce. They file almost 75%. Women are the ones that file, and then the guy's always behind the 8 ball there. But that's because there's no 50-50 set standard. If there was, then it would be much easier.
And also, too, if there was a 50-50 set standard, I think you would just see less divorce in general. I think people would be trying to, because there would be no benefit to it, right? There would be no. They're almost incentivizing divorce, and then you wonder why the divorce rate is so high. But just to kind of go back to Jake's question, I think also too, not really the media, but just what's portrayed on TV and things like that. I don't really want general TV is not considered a media source, so I don't want to say the media. But what shows, sitcoms, movies.
Well, nowadays it is though, Glenn, because with the cancel culture, it absolutely has to be okay with the news organizations
more than they are damn TV stations.
Yeah, people watch the news more than they watch TV. I mean, I don't even watch TV, to be honest with you. Every now and again, my wife may throw something on Netflix, and I get caught kind of just watching it in the background. But
Tiger King.
I hate that shit. I don't watch Tiger King.
I know.
but really, the way that the family is portrayed, and it's not. I don't want to seem like I'm harping on like the LGBTQ community or anything like that. But because of this new movement, we're actually starting to see a lot more sitcoms that are coming out where there's no dad around. Or there's a sitcom, I forget the name of it, where there's only the dad and no mom around, and it's like TV shows are promoting this sort of lifestyle. Where back in the day, I mean, like you got Family Matters and
Cosby's, Leave It to Beaver,
the Beavers, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Even though he didn't have a father, his mother had enough sense to send him to a family where there was a mother and a father in the household, right? So, all these things, it's just not the same anymore. And I think that TV. The portrayal of families nowadays has a lot to do with that, and obviously the government incentivizing breakups. So that's really what they're doing in a nutshell, is incentivizing it.
All right. Hey, before we go into closing arguments, let's go over one comment we had out of New Jersey. Joe Anderson just wanted to give us a shout out to the show. He's like, hey, second time watching us. He's enjoying it. He's loving it. He's giving us great feedback. Hey, man, we love you, Joe. Thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Kenny, you want to go into the closing arguments for tonight?
Sure. My closing arguments tonight are going to be based around the media and just the fact that we have to stop. We have to demand what we want from our media. If we're tired of seeing the hate rhetoric on TV, then we need to be as vigilant as those that are mad about whatever they're mad about, being politically correct. We need to email. We need to demand shows that show more loving things. It starts with us. We've got to stop being so triggered by the hate. We have to get to the point where we don't even want to deal with it, and we want to build things that we can enjoy and feel good about ourselves. Because as the United States, we have a lot of great things going on, and it's just sad because we just don't even realize it, and we allow ourselves to get screwed by these people. So my hope for everybody tonight is just, realize that your neighbors love you, and you can shout out to your neighbors and tell them you love them, and that's my encouragement word for tonight.
All right. Thank you very much, Kenny, for that closing statement. Really quick, I just want to thank all of the viewers all of the supporters. We love all of the feedback, even all of the haters. I just want to thank everybody that has shown some sort of support in some sort of way to our podcast. Episode 10, which is the episode that we just recorded previous to this one, hit a milestone of 3,000 views and 73 comments. It's still climbing. So huge thank you for that milestone. And if you haven't seen episode 10 yet, feel free to go ahead and check it out. We talked about some heated topics in that one, and it actually did get pretty heated. It's funny because when we first started this, Kenny and I we were the guys going back and forth with each other on social media. And we just decided to, hey, let's get together and do this thing. And now that we're actually doing it, we find that we agree on about 70% of things. We agree on way more than what we thought we disagreed on. But episode 10 got pretty heated. So very rarely do we debate. It's usually a discussion. We actually debated in that one. So go ahead and check that out. And then also, I just want to touch on today, guys, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, it doesn't matter, all across the board. Take responsibility for yourself and your actions. Hold yourself accountable, right? If you're breaking the law and you get caught, you got caught. Don't try to run. Don't put other people's lives in danger. Don't, try to create a high-speed chase or anything like that. Because 9 times out of 10, you're just going to make it that much worse, and you could potentially get yourself or somebody else killed. Again, I don't want that to seem like a blanket statement, like I'm pointing the finger at Rayshard Brooks or at anybody that's had their hands taken or their life taken at the hands of law enforcement. But guys, there's got to be some sort of level of accountability here. Especially as Black men and women. We have to, if we're asking for change from police, then we have to ask for change within ourselves all the way around too. It's only going to make society better. It's going to make ourselves better. We got to start carrying ourselves in the best version of ourselves and at a much higher vibration. And I think that life will be better for everybody. But again, we appreciate all your comments, questions. Keep them coming in. Feel free to email us at contra.dictions.us@gmail.com. You can always drop a comment or an instant message here on Facebook, Instagram. We got the YouTube up and running. So thanks again. You guys could be anywhere tonight, but you chose to be here with us. And with that, we'll see you guys next time, which will be Wednesday.
Hey, Glenn, Kenny, thank you very much. My colleagues are great. They do their research every night, man. They bring the fire every night, no doubt about it. And it's shown our page is off the hook. Episode 10, like Glenn said, reached 3,400 views. We're over 6,000 people reached. We got over 8 shares. We're doing it, man. And it's all because of you. We appreciate you, America. Thank you for tuning in every night. Like Glenn said, we know you could be anywhere, but you chose to be here with us. And we love it. If you want us to address anything, like Glenn said, reach out to us on all of our social media outlets. We got them all up. Let me get you right here. Where we at? Yeah, there we go. Boom. All right. You got us Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. YouTube is now live, so we got to fix that right up for you. We are on YouTube as well. So hit us up on any three or any of those outlets. And like I said, for all my colleagues, thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you episode 12. And if you need anything from us, please just shoot us a message. Be safe, America. Wash your hands. We love you.